Namaskar. Welcome to the session on color. Firstly, introduction. Quality of food is incomplete without the interaction from the user who perceives it through his testing instruments, the five senses. Hence, it is important that product development, marketing should take note of the user's concepts of product. The first parameter in this direction is how color is perceived, followed by appearance and texture. Color and appearance both are caused by visual sense. Vision is regarded as the process of seeing, whereas appearance is the recognition and assessment of the properties, surface texture, opacity, color, etc. Vision has the advantage that a pictorial representation of the object can be recorded, including the effect of both the color of the object and the effect of light in the memory of the observer. Decision making on the acceptance or rejection or purchase of the food depends first on the visual impact it makes. The intrinsic qualities come later. This episode deals with the following aspect of color: importance of color, dimensions of color and attributes of color, perception of color and measurement of color. Now first, let us look into the importance of color. Among the quality factors of a food material, appearance is an important factor. Appearance may be influenced by several factors, of which color is the most important one. The importance of color measurement lies in product development and quality control that in turn directly affects the consumer acceptability and marketing. In addition, color from a number of foods and agricultural commodities is specified by law for quality purposes. These includes Munsell color meter values for tomato products, Loewe-Born tintometer reading for mustard oil, etc. The classic sensory modalities of vision, smell, touch, taste and hearing have been broadly classified into two classes, that is the physical senses and chemical senses. Physical senses are those that deal with vision, touch and hearing and are dominantly based on the physical properties. Visual impact means the entire field of color and appearance, such as color, size, shape and visual structure and texture parameters. Thus, the combination of many individual factors make up for the total perception of appearance of food. This total perception is built from all the visual sensations experienced when a product is viewed on the shelf. A list is being prepared and when it is presented on the plate. Appraisal of food by its color is usually helpful and in a vast majority of cases provides a reliable information more quickly than can be obtained by other means. Color evaluation and control of fresh and processed foods is becoming increasingly important to processor. The reason is relatively obvious. Production of a standard product. The food industry accepts as normal some variability in the color of raw materials. By judicious blending, especially in juice, it is possible to produce product of fairly uniform color. Hence, evolution of color of the raw material becomes increasingly important to processor. Dimensions of color and attributes of color, gloss, etc. Optical properties comprise of the attributes of color, translucence, gloss and uniformity. Perception of color and of appearance in general is a phenomenon unique to the individual. Standardization of measurements of which involves defined conditions of source of lighting and illumination. Gloss is the next optical property, which also plays an important part. The presence of glossy surface affects the perceived color by diluting it with the color of the illuminating light. Thus, the perceived color of the surface changes with angles of illumination and viewing. Translucence is very common in food products. This quality is usually appreciated in those products which are almost transparent in their own right or usually as a thin layer. Light, which is not specularly reflected as occurs in mirror, penetrates into the surface, and when light is passed through a translucent object, absorption or scattering reduce the intensity. These attributes of color, gloss and translucence are capable of being specified using numbers relative to psychophysical scales. Mode of presentation consists of product description, package, including shape, design, color, strikingness of packaging, contrast phenomena of adjacent colors and illumination. All the four aspects apply on the shelf while the last two apply on the table. No doubt, price has a profound effect on purchase decisions. Brand name and product description follow the price. But many a times, impulsive purchases are made which are able to hold and catch the attention of the buyer for just about a second. Package design and use of color and color harmony thereon is not a straightforward subject, and it is clear that a new package design should never be used without prior texting. Color never stands alone but are always in combination with other colors and surfaces around them, as well as the direction of light which lies upon them. Color contrast and strength can make or mar the product on shelf. Ingenuity in choice of colored lights and crockery will enhance the color and appearance of foods. Gloss. The appearance of a surface, whether it is glossy or dull, is an important physical aspect of food quality detected by human vision. In general, a shiny appearance is preferred, although this varies with the product. Typical products where a shiny surface is valued are apples, cucumbers, cherries and rice. On the other hand, oranges, mushrooms, green beans are expected to have a dull surface. The four types of light distribution from objects have the following general relationship to surface appearance. Diffuse reflection, shiny, specular reflection, glossy, mirror-like diffuse transmission, cloudy, opaque, and specular transmission, translucent. Since gloss is a psychological attribute of surfaces associated with specular reflection, and since they vary from surface to surface, no well-developed methods exist for quantifying this property, though its importance is understood. Perception of color. Physically, color is a characteristic of light measurable in terms of intensity and wavelength. It arises from the presence of light in greater intensities and at some wavelength than others. Physiologically, it is farther limited to than band of spectrum from 376 to 788 nanometers, and for all practical purpose, the range from 400 to 700 nanometer is used. Color is sensation experienced by an individual when energy in the form of radiation within the visible spectrum falls upon the retina of the eye. Without light, color does not exist. The color perceived when the eye views an illuminated object depends upon spectral compositions of the light sources and chemical and physical characteristics of the object or colorant and spectral sensitivity characteristics of viewer's eye. The human eye is a very sensitive organ. It can detect up to 10 million different colors. The determination of color as seen by the human eye depends on a physical stimulus in the eye followed by an interpretation by the brain. The interpretation of the signals from the retina by the brain is a complex phenomenon and is influenced by many psychological aspects. Visual apparatus consists of the eye, that is a light detector wavelength analyzer, and neural pathway to the brain, in which the visual cortex provides kind of interpretation map of the retinal image. The detection and translation of the external stimuli into the colored sensation begin in the 200 million cells in the retina. Eye is spherical with diameter of approximately 2 centimeters. Exterior eyeball has 3 membranes, consist of sclera, continues with the sheet of optic nerve posteriorly and anteriorly with cornea. The middle or choroid contains blood capillary network. The iris, which controls amount of light entering the eye, ciliary body suspends the lens. Inner membrane is light detecting retina, lies inside the posterior of the eye. Light entering the lens of the eye on the retina, where rods and cones convert it into neural impulses which travel to the brain via the optic nerve. Color constancy and chromatic adaptation, contrast phenomena, color memory, color harmony, and color vision deficiency are the factors that have an effect on perception of color. Appearance consists of a large proportion of color and the visual attributes of structure. Product range is thus built by 3 parts: on the shelf, preparation, and on the plate images. The purchase decisions are mostly dependent on the correlations of color and appearance to intrinsic quality in the eyes of the consumer. The assessment of the images, its unfolding, should be carried out with carefully built sensory methods coupled with the data generated by the available most sensitive color measuring systems. Measurement of color, Munsell color system, CIE color system, Hunter color system, etc. Colors that fall between existing standards are difficult to communicate to another individual. These are the reasons instrumental methods of color measurement have been more useful. Measurement of color depends on several factors including the input light, illuminant, object, that is the food itself, and the instrument employed for measuring color, that is the human eye or a color measuring instrument. The illuminants used in the present time are stimulating the average daylight, that is illuminant C or D65, which can supply continuous spectra of light without variation. Illuminants A and B were used in earlier days. These illuminants are defined by their respective color temperatures. The sunlight varies widely during the daytime and due to weather condition and hence not suitable for color measurement as a standard illuminant. The food material is the object that is mostly opaque and therefore is able to provide repeatable results of color due to reflection. It is also necessary to have a standard white for color measurement. Standard white may be barium sulfate, magnesium carbonate, glazed white tiles, etc. It is worth mentioning here that user-defined illuminants are now finding wide use from the point of product development and quality control. Among the quality factors of a food material, appearance is an important factor. Appearance may be influenced by several factors, of which color are the most important one. The importance of color measurement lies in product development and quality control that in turn directly affects the consumer acceptability and marketing. In addition, color for a number of foods and agricultural commodities is specified by law for quality purposes. These include Munsell color meter values for tomato products, Lovibond tintometer reading for mustard oil, etc. Principle of color measurement. The measurement of color is usually done by human eye and thus it is a subjective measurement. Color measurement varies from person to person. Standard color charts are available, but they possess two limitations. These are fading of color with time and comparison of color, which is again a subjective measurement. So, a number of color measuring instruments have been developed to measure instrumental or objective color of samples. The principles behind those developments lie on several facts. These are that the color can be added or subtracted to have another color. Further, human eye can recognize three kinds of stimuli, and thus color measurement is known as tristimulus colorimetry. These three stimulus are dominant wavelength or hue, purity or saturation, that is sample's own color, and brightness, that is the ratio of the reflected light to incident light. Instrumental methods for color measurement based on transmission or transreflection spectrophotometry. The physiologists discussed the response of the human eye in terms of the visible spectrum. It was done in a manner easily reproducible in a laboratory today. A number of color meters are available. Among them, common color meters are Lovibond tintometer, Munsell color meter, Hunter color meter, and color meters based on CIE system. Munsell color meter is developed for USDA for color grading of processed tomato products such as juice, tomato puree, tomato paste, tomato ketchup and sauce. In Munsell system, the three attributes of color are designated as hue, represented by H, value, that is V, and chroma, C, and are always given in the same sequence. The hue scale is based on 10 hues, which may be distributed on the circumference of a hue circle. The letters used to designated hues are R for red, Y for yellow, G for green, B for blue, and P for purple, and their intermediaries as YR, GY, BG, PB, and RP. Each hue is at the midpoint of a scale from 1 to 10. The Weyl scale is perpendicular to the plane of the hue circle and passes through its center. It ranges from 0, that is black 0, to 10 white. In practice, the working scale is normally set from 1 to 9. The chroma, that is the intensity of hue scale, the third attribute of color, starts from the center of the hue circle, that is 0 chroma, and extends radially in a series of steps and is of irregular length to limit permitted by available pigment. Hunter color system is based on the color space given in figure 2 and expresses color in terms of L, A, and B. The parameter L represents lightness or brightness, A indicates redness when positive and greenness when negative, and B indicates yellowness when positive and blueness when negative. But these colorimeter can not only express the color of samples completely. The basic color attributes as defined by Hunter 1991 are brightness, the attribute of a visual sensation according to which an area appears to exhibit more or less light. Hue, the attribute of a visual sensation according to which an area appears to be similar to 1 or proportions of 2 of the perceived color red, yellow, green and blue. Colorfulness, the attribute of a visual sensation according to which an area appears to exhibit more or less of its hue. Lightness, the brightness of an area judged in proportion to the brightness of a similarly illuminated area that appear to be white or highly transmitting, that is strong and weak. Chroma, the colorfulness on area judged in proportion to its brightness of a similarly illuminated area that appear to be white or highly transmitting, that is strong and weak. Saturation, the colorfulness of an area judged in proportion to its brightness. These 6 attributes will be quite useful in describing and quantifying the color of any product with regard to the environment. The Commission International d'Éclairage (CIE) system is a complete but complex color measuring system because it is an imaginary system. It can give values for all 3 parameters of color measurements such as hue, chroma and brightness. It initially calculates the tri-stimulus, that is x, y, z, followed by estimation of chromaticity coordinates x, y. It then uses the standard color space graph given in figure 2 to obtain the all 3 color characteristics such as hue, chroma and brightness. It is thus desirable to use this system to obtain a clear picture about the color of the food system and to finally relate them with the color measurements obtained by sensory assessments. CIE approved 3 standard illuminants. Illuminant A with a color temperature of 2854 Kelvin represents light from an incandescent lamp. Illuminant B with a color temperature of 4800 Kelvin represents direct sunlight. Illuminant C with a color temperature of 6500 Kelvin represents average daylight. The CIE 4th series is D illuminants, usually known by the first 2 digits of the Kelvin color temperature scale, that is D65, D75, etc. It can be concluded that color measurement in scientific manner is highly important for quality control and for product development, though detailed measurement of the color is a complex process. The measurement of color depends on the light energy in the visual spectrum emitted when a light beam interacts with an object. The signal, which can be either reflection or transmission, impinges on the retina of the eye, which in turn sends a signal to the brain. Mathematical data for interpreting the visual signals are rigid for ideal situations, namely complete reflectance or transmittance, but most foods are in between the 2 extremes. This gives some empiricism into the instrumental interpretation of color. Next is color abnormalities. Some aspects of color perception which must be considered in sensory testing are: subjects often give consistent responses about an object color even when filters are used to mark differences. Subjects are influenced by adjoining or background color and relative sizes of area of contrasting color, blotchy appearance. The gloss and texture of a surface also affect perception of color. Color vision differs among subjects. Degrees of color blindness, for example, inability to distinguish red and orange or blue or green. Pigments are perceived as colors because receptors on the retina of the eye receive physical stimuli. Color is also associated with taste, for example, yellowish green for acidic, moss green for saltish and pink for sweetish, dark brown for bitterness. The surface characteristics or appearance factors are related to the quality of the product and they could be the most important factors evaluated. Appearance provides the first clue for the consumer of the product's quality. Factors such as the length, thickness, width, particle size and the apparent wetness, dryness, softness, hardness or crispness of surfaces are used by consumers for making purchasing decisions. Color is also equally important. A darker than anticipated color might lead the consumer to assume that the product is overdone and of low quality, which might result in rejection of the product. Is the color the expected one, or is it too light or too dark? In baked products, too light or too dark a color might indicate or connote under or over baking. Appearance factors are divided into those related to color and the wavelength distribution of light and the spatial distribution of light. The geometric attributes include glossiness, clarity, haze, turbidity or opacity, distribution of pieces and surface texture. Is the length, thickness, width or particle size what is expected? Does the surface appear wet, dry, soft, hard or crispy? Because these questions are used by consumers for making purchasing decisions, appearance factors need to be evaluated. Conclusion: color and appearance both are caused by visual sense. Vision is regarded as the process of seeing, whereas appearance is the recognition and assessment of the properties, surface texture, opacity, color, etc. Appraisal of food by its color is usually helpful and in a vast majority of cases provides reliable information more quickly than can be obtained by any other means. Color contrast and strength can make or mar the product on shelf. The determination of color as seen by the human eye depends on a physical stimulus in the eye followed by an interpretation by the brain. The interpretation of the signals from the retina by the brain is a complex phenomenon and is influenced by many psychological aspects. The food material is the object that is mostly opaque and therefore repeatable results on color can be produced due to reflection. Thank you.